Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this forum, Cyber Forum 2011, sponsored by the Philippine Resource Organization for Information and Communications Technology. Can they improve the sound system, please? There's an echo here. And in particular, may I thank the National President, Mr. Cesar Manuel. Maraming salamat, Cesar. And one of the other personalities at the head table, advisor of the PRO's ICT, Mr. Paul Andrew Pisig. Thank you. And of course, may I acknowledge the chairman of the House Committee on Information and Communications Technology. He was in IT even before he became a local government official as mayor of Taguig, a very respected member of the House of Representatives, bagong-bago, but he conducts himself like a veteran congressman. That's no other than the chairman of the House Committee on ICT, Congressman Freddy Tinga of Taguig. Well, first of all, I would like to start by saying that I'm not exactly an expert in ICT, but I know how to use a little of ICT with respect to my official duties and also my personal networking requirements. For example, a few minutes ago, I was able to already post on my Facebook the fact that I took a picture of the audience here and it's now posted on my Facebook. Kaya naka-Facebook na kayo, lalo na yung mga nasa front row. Kung meron kayong kaibigan na kilala yung Facebook ko, nabasa na kayo. Twitter ko na rin. I also tweeted that I'm a speaker in this Cyber Forum 2011 for about a few thousand of my followers to know what I'm doing this afternoon. I have been a user of ICT, of computers, since as far as I can remember. Very fortunately, it's part of the core curriculum in the school where I studied, and this is the U.S. Naval Academy, where during my time, para makapag-computer ka, you have to go to one huge computer center, an entire building. You have to do your own program, kailangan ka ng punch cards, and then put it in the queue for the computer and pray after that, hoping that everything is going to be all right. After about 3-4 days, the computer will give you an assessment, maybe a computer solution of for example, a rocketry problem, a physics problem, a weapons problem, which are very computer intensive. As far as the military is one of the most computer-intensive entities, especially the U.S. military. I was one of the first to own a Macintosh. This was back when a lot of you were not born yet, in 1984. One of the first Macintosh users, one of the believers in Apple. And I've been an Apple loyalist since then. I have an iPhone, an iPod, an iPad, I have an iMac, I have all kinds of things. I was one of the first to also believe in the iPad. In fact, when I bought an iPad, and I bought an iPad for my wife and my 2 kids, a lot of people thought that I bought too early. Sabi nila, masyado ka maaga, baka maging flop yung produkto na yan. But of course, we all know that the Apple iPad and iPad 2, they have become one of the most successful products, computer products in the history of computers. Now let me talk about my role here in Cyber Forum 2011, new information, new technology. I understand that I was invited because I'm the author of the House Bill to create the Department of Information and Communications Technology, and this is House Bill number 16. As you can see from the number, it's a very low numbered House Bill, one of the first House bills to be filed in the present Congress, the 15th Congress. And the idea here is to strengthen the governance of the ICT sector in the country, the promotion of the ICT sector in the country. And there's the declaration of policy. This is too long to read, but basically it's defining the powers and functions of the proposed DICT ensure the provision of strategic, reliable, cost-efficient, and citizen-centric ICT infrastructure systems, foster a policy environment for ICT sector that will promote market-led, broader development of the ICT, etc., etc. Powers and functions would be to formulate, recommend, and implement national policy and guidelines in the ICT sector that will promote wider use and development of information and communications technologies and applications, and increase and convenient access by the citizens to the same. And I would like to thank the chairman of the Committee on ICT of the House of Representatives, Congressman Tinga, for giving this his top priority. And in fact, this was readily approved in his committee. This was also presented to the Committee on Appropriations for the appropriation provision, also approved in the committee, and this is already up for plenary debate. And I thought that everything is going to be smooth from there, because a lot of people are talking about ICT, ICT, ICT. However, we came out, we were binulaga kami ng isang bagong executive order number 47. As you all know, there's already a commission on ICT, and our objective when we filed the DICT bill was to strengthen the supervision and promotion of the ICT from the commission level to a full department level. And I'm sure that Congressman Tinga in his presentation will be giving you a rundown, a briefing on how big the ICT sector has become to justify the creation of a separate line department, the Department of ICT. But there is this executive order reorganizing, renaming, and transferring the Commission on Information and Communications Technology and its attached agencies to the Department of Science and Technology, directing implementation thereof and for other purposes. As we all know, the DOST is probably one of the most high-tech departments in the government. It is an R&D based department. I have no doubt about the competence of the Secretary of the DOST right now. However, during the budget hearing in the Committee on Appropriations on the budget of the DOST, I asked the Secretary of the DOST, Department of Science and Technology, a very pointed question. I asked him, Mr. Secretary, I have no doubt about your science and technology background. However, R&D may be related to ICT, but R&D may be different from ICT, especially considering that you have other R&D initiatives that cover the entire gamut of governance, not only in ICT. So I asked him a pointed question. I said, Secretary Montero, please give me your honest to goodness opinion. In the public interest, do you think that the DOST is the best steward of the ICT group or the part of Philippine governance with respect to the ICT? Well, I was given what I thought was a run-around answer, not a very frank and direct answer, to the point that he was talking about some ICT initiatives of the DOST, some research here and there. But then I told him that as far as I'm concerned, the interest in governing and supervising the ICT sector is with regard to applications, not really on research and development, but more on applications, especially applications with respect to the government, with respect to the private sector, and with respect to the role of the ICT in the development of the economy of the country. During that hearing, Congressman Tinga also asked similar questions. He was, in fact, the first one to ask some questions, and basically the bottom line was we had some skepticism about the ability of the DOST to be the one to oversee a very vital, strategic, and probably game and life-changing sector, the ICT sector. But that is a policy issue that is going to be resolved later. So let me tackle another issue, ICT and human security. Cyberterrorism. A cybercrime act is needed to meet the menace of cyberterrorism, and there has been some initiatives in this area. Number 2, e-courts. Judicial reforms should consider the creation of e-courts. Meantime, there's a need for e-courts training of judges and lawyers. This is inevitable because there will be a lot of legal disputes that are e-related, and I think it is very important that we have courts that are competent in resolving e-cases. National ID. In the national ID issue, one very good example is the Unique Identification Project of India. India adopted a unique identification project and constituted the Unique Identification Authority of India, which is a ministry-level department last year. This is a gargantuan project, and they selected no less than one of the richest billionaires in India, Nandan Nilekani, who's an IT guru in India and in the entire world, an IT billionaire. A project of this nature must meet the requirements of human rights protection in cyberspace. This is something that we need, but there's a lot of human rights issue with respect to a national ID in the Philippines. And probably what we can do is study what is happening right now in India. It is, I understand, a $36 billion project that is now being implemented by the Indian government. National security issues. The international mobile equipment identity numbers assume great significance this year in some countries. For example, India banned Chinese mobiles having no IMEI numbers. Even arrests were made to enforce this ban. However, there is the proposal to register SIM cards. Again, a very controversial proposal that is, I think, in the hands of the Committee on ICT. Number 5, cybersecurity of defense forces. The defense forces need cybersecurity and cyber forensics capabilities. The cyber war and cyber terrorism threats are not only real, but also very dangerous. The Philippines must upgrade its cybersecurity and national security capabilities as soon as possible. Cyber war and cyber terrorism are matters of great concern to all countries. Equally important are the issue pertaining to cybersecurity of defense forces. These issues are important as they strike at the very root of the critical ICT infrastructure protection. For example, there have been some news items with respect to websites in the Philippines hacked, not only in the Philippines, but I understand even in the Pentagon, even in the South Korean security departments and the agencies, they've been hacked, just to show you how vulnerable we can be. E-surveillance. Some countries have become an endemic e-surveillance society. Their laws may have provided unregulated e-surveillance powers to the government and its agencies and instrumentalities. Some countries have become an e-police state without any regard to human rights protection in cyberspace. Confidential information is already vulnerable. Some are even planning to install key loggers at cyber cafes. The same would exclude the use of cyber cafes for these purposes. Of course, we do not want the Philippines to become an e-surveillance society. The role of ICT in the environment. You know, the environment is a very important facet of our life today. And I'm very happy that there are some initiatives in applying the ICT with respect to protecting the environment. And one very good example of this is what is happening in India. Remote sensing and GIS provides data and knowledge concerning the global environment as it is used for mapping and monitoring various natural resources. Some advanced countries like India have created an Environment Information System, or ENVIS. Different ENVIS centers are set up in different organizations for information collection, storage, with work towards boosting the relationship between trade and environment. Here's an example of ENVIS in India. The Environmental Information System, acronym as ENVIS, was implemented by the ministry in India. By the end of the 6th five-year plan as a plan scheme for environmental information collection, collation, storage, retrieval, and dissemination to policy planners, decision makers, scientists, and environmentalists, researchers, academicians, and other stakeholders. And what is happening here is that they set up a network database system which is decentralized, computerized, consisting of the focal points located in the Ministry of the environment, and a chain of network partners known as envy centers located in the potential organizations, institutions throughout the country. In order to develop ENVI's network as a comprehensive, distributed environmental information network system, the ambit of ENVI's was extended to cover all the states of the country. And in this particular case, if we talk the Philippines, all the provinces, all the cities, and practically all of the towns of the country. Necessary guidelines and policies were provided to revise the early EFC of the scheme, and the new concept for covering the state government departments were completed through a revised SFC. So what are the items that are being monitored? For example, they are now monitoring various environmental disciplines covering from air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, biodiversity, solid waste management, ecology and ecosystems, environmental education, NGOs, media, and even environmental parliament, coastal ecosystem, clean technology, etc., etc. So what they did here is they interconnected the various offices of the government. It may be the Bureau of Lands, it may be the Department of Information of the DILG, it can be an LGU. They were all interconnected through a database network, and these various centers are providing data and information to a centralized body, which is the ENVI's body. Like, for example, in the case of Ondoy, if we had something like this working in Ondoy, there would be an early warning system already. If there would be a high level of rainfall in some parts of the mountains in the Sierra Madre, in the Marikina area, that would indicate the possibility of floods. There would be signals already. If there will be a forest fire, it will be already injected into the system. If there is some unusual environmental development, a forest fire, or maybe an alteration or some adverse development in the field of biodiversity, that can also be inputted, and the whole system can monitor this to protect the environment. To provide short-term objective, provide national environmental information service relevant to present needs and capable of development to meet the future needs of the users. Build up storage, retrieval, and dissemination capabilities with the ultimate objective of disseminating information speedily to the users. The role of the ICT in environment, used for computer-based modeling and simulation of environmental scenarios for analysis and prediction. Enables environment scientists and researchers around the world. In other words, if we have something like this, we can connect with the rest of the world so that what is happening in the country can also be monitored around the world, and we can become part of all these researchers around the world to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate. The role of the ICT in environment, the production of electronic waste, for example, again, that is an area that has become a byproduct of our e-system today. Electronic waste at a global scale is estimated to be about 20 to 25 million tons per year, with major roles being played by Europe, the United States and Australia. China, Eastern Europe, and Latin America are expected to become major producers of e-waste in the next 10 years. The Philippines will be no exceptions. Batteries, cell phones, and all kinds of things are part of the e-waste that is going to be generated by this new environment and civilization that we have. The use of laptops, PCs, mobile phones, and other electronic and entertainment devices is also increasing rapidly. The dark side of these statistics is an increase in e-waste in the last 2 decades. Climate change is also an area where the ICT can help very much. ICTs can function as sustainable means for mitigation of global GHG emissions and climate change threats. They have a critical role to play in combating climate change through the reduction of the GHG emissions. Incidentally, I'm the author of the Climate Change Act of 2009 in the House of Representatives. Climate change addressed by the Climate Change Act of 2009, which I principally authored. The use and application of new technology is necessary in addressing climate change using measures like energy efficiency technology, remote sensing, natural resource management, local information management, and dissemination, disaster management, etc., etc. through the development of more energy-efficient devices, applications, and networks that are alternatives to today's waste sources such as transport and travel, as well as the environmentally sound disposal of ICTs. For example, low emissions recycling. ICTs can be an enabling technology to stabilize and reduce emissions in all sectors. With the Renewable Energy Act of 2009, the Philippines has declared a shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources, including promoting solar energy. By the way, this is one of my advocacies also, solar energy. New satellite towns, which are to be designed in eco-friendly manner. Eco-communities, resorts, and housing complexes can also be developed. In fact, this representation is also studying the possibility of making the entire House of Representatives complex as a solar power center, because it has about 16 hectares, and right then and there it can probably generate about 4 to 8 megawatts of power through solar sources. The country must use ICT tools for different environmental projects to protect the environment, such as establishing a center for climate change research to provide data for modeling and monitoring climate change in the country. The center should network with other national and international scientific institutes and universities that measure GHGs and monitor temperature change and rainfall patterns. The ICT should be part of the policy and debate around climate change. There's still an ongoing debate about climate change, whether it is caused by human beings, whether this is a natural cycle that the world is going through, and whether there should be mitigation or adaptation. The jury is still out as far as climate change is concerned. And implementation efforts where technology can bridge the gap between policymakers and implementers. I would like to stress is bridge the gap between policymakers and implementers. Policymakers will be the executive department, the president, the various cabinet members, including Congress, because definitely there is a policy gap and a technology gap between policymakers and implementers. Now, I'd like to talk about a little about the ICT growth story of India as of the year 2010. India, to my mind, is one of the best models as far as ICT is development. Let me cite some figures. ICT will be a key growth driver in the years ahead, was supported by the statistics from the IT sector of India. The patterns that the ICT minister talked about were evident in the projects that were presented later. Here are some figures of the ICT sector in India. It grew from $7.8 billion to $64 billion in 10 years' time. Imagine that. From $7.8 billion to $64 billion in a decade's time. During the same period, contribution of IT sector to the GDP of India grew from 1.2% to 6.1%. IT accounts for 20% of exports from India. 45% of the incremental urban jobs generated by the IT sector. 45%. And of course, this is rapidly emerging already with the BPO industry that is fast progressing, and I'm sure that Congressman Tinga will be talking about this also. 70% of the workers in the sector are youngsters. 70% are youngsters. 30% of those employed in the sector are women. 80% of the total turnover in the sector is from exports in IT. 80% of the turnover of the volume of business are export-oriented. And India now has 51% share in the global offshoring market. And I understand from the latest report that we're getting close to about 30%, maybe even more, as far as the offshoring market is concerned. Being a globally well-integrated sector, it took a significant impact with the slowdown. While the economic slowdown transformed into a crisis worldwide, India IT companies still grew at 10%. Again, it became a cushion for the global slowdown that happened in 2008, because in spite of the slowdown, the India IT sector even grew by 10%. Of course, for a sector which is used to growth rates of 30%, this was a real slowdown, but nonetheless, it was still a continued growth. But what it indicates is that there was some potential domestically. The domestic market showed a robust growth and this now presents a significant growth opportunity for the sector. What are the challenges ahead as far as India is concerned? And I think there are parallels here in the Philippines. Challenges are largely about governance. The government structure is often like silos with no interaction and knowledge sharing amongst various departments. This has been a major deterrent to the success of the ICT programs, and I think this is exactly what is happening in the Philippines also. Number 3, centralized decision making. Often it is the Chief Minister and the Chief Secretary of the State who have the power to take decisions on administrative, financial, and operational matters, and parallel to this, at the national level, it rests with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Secretary. Of course, this is not the same. What happened here is instead of strengthening the government entity overseeing the ICT sector, it even, in my opinion, made it smaller and made it an adjunct only of a department, the Department of Science and Technology. Now, how has the sector, now one indication of how the sector has been restructured over so many years is an example in the United States. In the United States, let's talk about the top 10 giants of American industry. In 2007, which is 4 years ago, the number 1 was ExxonMobil, number 3 was GE, number 3 was Microsoft, followed by AT&T, then Citigroup, these are the banks, Bank of America, Procter & Gamble, Cisco Systems, represented by Mr. Snow, I understand, Walmart, and Chevron. After 4 years, look at what happened. Now, number 1 is still ExxonMobil, but a very, not a dominant number 1, because number 2 now, from nowhere, in 4 years' time, is Apple, with only a $2 billion difference from ExxonMobil, which is statistically almost insignificant, followed by Microsoft. Apple was able to overtake Microsoft to the chagrin of Bill Gates. I understand that iPad and iPhone are banned in Microsoft, in the Bill Gates family. IBM is number 4, Chevron, another oil company. Google is already there. It wasn't there. In fact, Google was nowhere to be found 10 years ago. Google was non-existent 10 years ago. Now it is one of the top 10. And then Berkshire Hathaway, Walmart, AT&T, and Johnson & Johnson. And you can see that a lot of the so-called IT companies have become the dominant. In fact, for a while, Apple was ahead of ExxonMobil. Let me talk very quickly about what we can expect in the future. And here in the future, my favorite author is Ray Kurzweil, an inventor scientist based in Massachusetts Institute of Technology. A few years ago, he came out with a best-selling book, The Singularity is Near. I also read several years ago his other very popular book, The Age of Spiritual Machines, where he made some predictions on the IT sector. What to expect in the future due to computers and ICT? Well, of course, this is past now. 2010, computers becoming smaller and increasingly integrated into everyday life. Well, Mr. Kurzweil wasn't able to predict the entry of iPad. But this is basically, in fact, exactly iPad. But I think he was talking about basically the same thing, the idea of something becoming smaller, something becoming very portable that you can carry around and perform the duties of a laptop, and that is what iPad is all about. Cell phones will be built into clothing and will be able to project sounds directly into the ears of their users. 2014, automatic house cleaning robots will have become common. 2020, one personal computer will have the same processing power as a human brain. 2020, that's about 9 years from now. It will cost only around $1,000, having the power of a human brain. Right now, the most powerful computer I understand is about 1,000, the power of the human brain. Solar power will reach parity with fossil fuel, and that's good news. By 2020, computers less than 100 nanometer in size will be possible, and that's very tiny. As one of the first practical applications, nanomachines are used for medical purposes. In fact, nanotechnology is one of the byproducts of IT. Highly advanced medical nanobots will perform detailed brain scans on live patients. Nanobots are robots in nano size that can penetrate the human blood system, circulatory system, in order to do brain scans and scans of our vital organs. Accurate computer simulation of the entire human brain will exist due to these hyper-accurate brain scans. Nanobots capable of entering the bloodstream to feed cells and extract waste will exist by the end of this decade. They will make the normal mode of human food consumption obsolete. And in fact, the nanobots can become, will make chemotherapy a more benign procedure, because it will attack directly the affected cancer cells instead of adversely affecting the healthy cells. By the end of this decade, medical nanobots, infinitely more durable, intelligent, capable than any microorganism, will become sufficiently advanced. They will become widely used. And a computer is eventually going to pass the Turing test for the last year of the decade. This is 2029, where a computer is already indistinguishable from a human being by way of behavior. That is what the Turing test is all about. It can think like a human. To the first, AI is likely to be the equivalent of a very stupid human. The first AI is built around a computer simulation of a human brain, which was made possible by previous nanotech-guided brain scanning. And 2025, this makes the world very exciting for young citizens in this room. The most likely year for the debut of advanced nanotechnology. Some military UAVs and land vehicles will be 100% computer controlled. Gone are the pilots. You can have insect-sized UAVs that can go inside the windows and blast the human being without the human being knowing about this. Right now we're talking of drones, for example, a predator that can blast a terrorist somewhere in the Middle East. But right now, in 2025, it will be different. You can have a bird-sized or even an insect-sized UAV flying all over the country. You think it's a housefly, but it's there to get you. 2030, mind uploading becomes possible. What is mind uploading? What is inside your brain can be uploaded into the computer already. I don't know whether Freddy Tinga would be willing to do that and have the USB given to his wife, and etc., so that everything that happened in his lifetime can be then accessible to anyone who would be curious enough. By 2045, this is what you call the singularity. When a $1,000 computer is going to be 1 billion times more intelligent than every human being combined. Imagine about 6 billion, maybe by that time, 7 billion human beings, but a $1,000 computer will be 1 billion times more intelligent than every human being combined. This means the average and even low-end computers are vastly smarter than even highly intelligent and enhanced humans. And that is, I don't know if that is good news or bad news, Mr. Snow. That is what you call the technological singularity. It's a buzzword right now. If you want to read about it, just have a Google alert on the word singularity, and you'll get about 1 million articles written by Mr. Ray Kurzweil and by other singularity experts. Of course, as artificial intelligence surpass human beings as the smartest and most capable life forms on the earth. Technological development is taken over by the machines. Technological development will be taken over by machines who can think, act, and communicate so quickly that normal humans cannot even comprehend what is going on. The machines enter into a runaway reaction of self-improvement cycles, with each new generation of AIs appearing faster and faster. From this point onwards, technological advancement is explosive, under the control of the machines, and thus cannot be accurately predicted. The singularity is an extremely disruptive, world-altering event that forever changes the course of human history. The extermination of humanity by violent machines is unlikely, though not impossible, because sharp distinctions between man and machine will no longer exist thanks to the existence of cybernetically enhanced humans and uploaded humans. Of course, I'd like to end by saying that the Republic of the Philippines has overtaken India as the call center hub of the world. That is the good news so far. Hopefully, we will take over the entire BPO industry by I don't know how many years. So that is the objective of the ICT. On that note, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what I know about the world of the ICT in the past, in the present, and far into the future. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Golez from the 2nd District of Parañaque City. And let us give you our small token that we call on top here downstairs, our Pro-ICT team, and of course Representative Golez to join us here also for your plaque of appreciation. Let me read the citation once again. This time for Honorable Roilo Golez, representative of Parañaque City, in recognition of his invaluable and enormous support for the success of the Cyber Forum 2011 held on August 22, 2011 at the Philippine National Police Headquarters, Multi-Purpose Center, Camp Crame, Quezon City. The Pro-ICT will always treasure your help and kind-heartedness towards the attainment of all our goals and aspirations. We are forever grateful, sir. Signed, the National President of Pro-ICT, Mr. Cesar Manuel. A round of applause.